All right. Let's see here. Get up.
All right, we're live.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the new media show. And we're a little late getting started this one. For those of you who listen to the podcast, you care less because we're on time for you because you've just grabbed the show. So
Right.
it's all good.
Right.
But the live folks, well, it is what it is. So good morning, Rob. I know you've got sleepy eye. You look at your face and I don't see no pillow creases or nothing, but
No, that's true. But yeah, I slept through my alarm again, so my fault.
Yeah, I've done that twice to you, and I think this is the first time you've done it to me. So equal play is fair.
Yeah,
So
there you go.
anyway, it's been I've been looking forward to the show all week.
I would imagine there's been some interesting things going on.
Yeah, yes. There has, and I'm going to have to temper, I think, some of my conversations today because I just can't reveal all my sources.
I'm not even sure how far down that rabbit hole we want to go again.
No, I don't think very far, but I think this morning, though, we should talk just a little bit about the rad press release that didn't go.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that one.
Yeah. So you want to give any background, or should we even broach the topic?
I don't know. I mean, rad. I'm not sure. Is our audience really familiar with what rad is?
Yeah,
I'm wondering.
We've talked about it a couple of times.
Yeah, we have. Okay.
It's the new initiative for measurement, for client-side measurement, and what it is, signaling from an app that tells you when someone starts to play or stop. Yeah.
Player-side metrics is what the goal is there. And
all right.
I think that the big thing to take away from what happened this week with that is the heightened sensitivity around privacy right now.
Yep.
People are bailing on Facebook. People are really questioning their participation in the social platforms from a data gathering perspective. And I think those are founded concerns.
Fake outrage.
But it's also something that's been an issue, I think, from pretty much day one.
Yeah,
this isn't something. Yeah, it's not something new.
Fake outrage. If people really think that they're using a free this cracks me up. If there are people, I see people, and I'm like,
you are the product.
You are the product. If you're using something free, you are the product, and they are going to monetize around you.
Yeah.
I just, I'm just like, did you really think that they weren't collecting information on us? I've always said that Google, Facebook, all these places know us better than our spouses.
Well,
or
that's
partners.
Their business model. That's why they've been so successful, is the fact that they're information gathering platforms.
Yeah.
And that's what we all signed up for. There's nothing new going on here.
And even if they would have sold, let's say I wouldn't have been surprised, Rob, to be frank with you. I know they gave this information to that guy for research, but I would not have in the least been any more surprised if they'd actually sold it to him. So anyway, there's a big investigation going on. And Facebook's all apologizing. But anyway, in light of and
it's impacting podcasts, this RAD initiative, because the RAD initiative is about collecting people's activities off of web players.
That's right.
Whether it's an app or an embedded player or whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
There's data that's coming in around your activities around content.
Right.
Though I don't think that's really at the same level of concern as what's going on with Facebook.
Because we had already decided that, I think the group had already decided that information needed to be tokenized, because we're all going to have to be making some changes anyway because of the EU and the GPDR by May 25th. Matter of fact, my team is working heavily right now in stats to get that data GPDR compliant and, making sure all our systems are GPDR compliant. And the EU has thrown, a major monkey wrench in the system. And we're putting significant dev time into getting ready for that.
No. Every tech company that's out there has to comply with this,
Right.
else they're going to be in trouble with the EU.
So essentially, and what that is the log data basically has to be anonymized. And there's more to it, but that's the top level, is that there's no longer going to be, if someone hacks us and downloads our log files, they shouldn't be able to tell by our log data what IP is you, essentially. Yeah. And it's overly simple explanation from about an 800-page document.
So that's the rationale of why the RAD press release didn't come out, was concerns around that kind of stuff. And I'm not, Todd, I don't know how far down this rabbit hole that you want to go, but there's concerns about RAD, right? And what's the reasons behind it? And I think, our particular rationale for thinking it's a good idea is the fact that, we've been pro gathering more accurate information on play information. We would like that too. And if it's anonymized, it's even better.
It's a supplement to the server side data.
Correct.
And
right.
And it's a good supplement, but it's going to be a relatively small supplement of data.
Unless certain big companies participate.
I don't have $1 here in my reach, but I'm holding up a virtual dollar, audience. I'm going to lay a gentleman's wager on the table, Rob, and see if you're willing to take this. I'm betting $1 that Apple is not going to participate.
Yeah, I would say that the timing on this couldn't be any worse. I would say everybody's heightened in their sensitivities around this stuff.
So my dollar,
whether it's rational or not, is not the point. Right?
So does anyone want to take me up on that? That's saying Apple will provide RAD data. I got $1. You want to take that bet, Rob? It's just $1. No, just $1.
I don't think so.
You don't think so?
I don't think that Apple is gonna do this. Why should they? What do they have to gain by doing anything like this?
They have their own data. They have their own analytics. Yep. You read their privacy policy. I just don't see it happening. Just straight up, I don't see. And if it happens, I will be very surprised.
Yeah.
I didn't hold my virtual dollar up when I had the camera on me, but no, I think that it's and so let's look at it from that perspective then. If some other folks participate, then like Google and some other companies, then that helps get a bigger picture of data.
It does.
It helps us it builds the story. But I just don't see. But I don't want to go down the rabbit hole too far here. But the download is king, and this is this
will be so for the foreseeable future. Yeah.
So, even though that Spotify is jumping in and these other folks, remember, you get on an airplane, you can't listen to podcasts on Spotify. So, therein lies the concern. It's a on-demand, largely an on-demand world for podcasting. And it'll change over time, but so Rob, here's a question for you. Here's a hypothetical question.
Okay.
What would happen if Apple started caching files like Spotify?
Well, I think that the immediate impact would be a dramatic impact on any kind of dynamic ad insertion models that are out there. That would be the first huge impact.
What if there
Um,
was an option where you could say to Apple, yes, you can cache through a tag, yes, you can cache my media, or no, you can't?
I don't see where Apple. I mean,
I'm just
why? No, I
just a
know.
hypothetical.
But just thinking about Apple, why would they do that though? That's the question that I have. See, I think it gets back to the business model that the company, the hosting platform
Mm-hmm.
has. Apple is not they don't do advertising.
Okay.
So it's not their core competency. It's not what their core business model is. But when you look at Google or you look at Spotify or you look at these other platforms, that is their core monetization, or one of their monetization strategies that's important to them. So that's where you really run into the difference with Apple. Apple is wanting to create great user experiences so they can sell more devices, right? So
Yep.
Building in an advertising platform kind of runs contrary to that. So it just doesn't make sense. My brain just kind of like flips on its head when I think about Apple caching and being worried about advertising. It just doesn't make sense to me.
Right.
So that's my rationale. That's why I think Apple, but I could maybe Apple sees an opportunity there too. It just depends how far down the rabbit hole that they want to go with this. I know there's been a lot of interest around the advertising business on the part of certain people at Apple over the years. They've certainly asked me a lot of questions about it over the years. But I don't know. I mean, Todd, I think it's an interesting question.
It is, and it makes you sit back and go, just a little bit, because it really does. That for 90, maybe 85 or 80. Well, it's going to grow though as time moves on, and as the advertising more dollars come in. Because I think someone at Rain predicted 600 million this year, so that's a double. I think that's a stretch, but I think that we're going to start seeing trickle down into the smaller shows. It has to, because the top inventory sold out. So we'll see where this leads, but time will tell. And also too, Apple is, for many, many years, they like to have this, they don't go, well, sometimes they talk with the networks, but they like to have these one-on-one relationships with podcasters. They like to send them an email, I think, and say, hey, we're going to feature your show, and send us some album art that we can use the featured spot. And, they have that direct go-to, because in your RSS feed, your email is in there. And unless you're with a different group, a different hosting company that submits all their podcasters' podcasts, and you don't have that direct relationship potential with Apple. So time will tell on this one, and how.
Well, and Apple has actually tried to automate their feature submission process too. I know probably a lot of podcasters aren't aware of this, but there is a feature submission tool that they have, but it is fairly tightly controlled on who gets access to that. I'm just saying that just because, Apple has been approached by a lot of podcasters over the years to submit new shows or, hot guests that they have on their programs. And, it's all been done via email. But here in the last couple of years, they've developed a tool to help get in the queue, right?
Right.
But they only work with certain players in the space right now. So Apple is, there's things that are going on behind the scenes with Apple that are improving what they're doing. So it isn't like they're sitting still. I think there's a lot of people that think that Apple just screwed up and they put out this app that a lot of people don't like, the listening side. And they're not really doing new things. And I think that they're always thinking about doing new things.
Their team is growing over there. Yeah, their team is growing. Now, one thing that I had some exchanges with some folks at Apple, and I asked them about the analytics part. And I said, we got a lot of podcasters asking questions about, what's it take to, because some folks don't have no data in their analytics. There's nothing there, or very, very thin. And and I really didn't get a really straight answer, except that there's something to do with 5 points of information they look for before data is populated. So I'm going to have to dig back in and see if I can, they didn't define that, but I don't know if that means 5 downloads or 5 instances or, 5 US, 5 Canada. I don't know. So I'm going to have
So there's some minimum bar of activity.
Yeah. And it's relatively low. So, in there's very few shows that don't get at least 5 downloads. Oh my God, you can get 5 downloads with just family members. So yeah, we'll see. But, I'm, kind of coming back to the topic we started on, I'm really concerned. Podcasters need to temper, with RAD. I think it's a goal, and we'll see where we're at in a couple of years with adoption. But for the foreseeable future, we need to make sure that the IEB podcast measurement standard is, really essentially the gold standard we go to clients and advertisers with, because that really is the, that's the thing we've all agreed to at this point, and at least the IEB members have, and the guidelines are out there. So I think there's a lot of companies that haven't said they're going to comply, and I know that IEB is starting a certification program too. So there's actually going to be the ability for companies to be certified by IEB to be IEB podcast metrics compliant, or I don't know what it's actually going to be called. So you're going to see some of that starting to pop up on companies this year as well. So, but it's probably not a cheap undertaking. It's going to be it's going to be expensive anytime you have one of these audits done. So, companies are going to be laying out a lot of sweat and capital
to get it done.
Yeah.
I think it's a good move, because I mean, we're all in this position where we get asked, well, is your platform, fully compliant with the IAB?
Yeah. We can say it, but they have to trust us.
Yeah, exactly. It's a trust thing right now. And probably, the reality probably is that all of the hosting platforms are in some degree compliant, but they may not be 100% down the path. They may be 80%, 70%, whatever. And we're all in the ballpark, and we're all, doing the right thing, but it may not be 100%. So it just depends on what the investment is in the developers to get there. And Todd, you're probably an example of, you're probably 120% or something like that. So you're probably more than compliant. So,
well, it's one of those things that I go back and I look at too. It's like a discussion, we got done with the last round here at IEB, and I said, okay, are we good? Do we need to make any changes? And Angela went back and looked at everything, and and it is an important question that company owners have to ask their dev teams. Okay, look at the spec. Let's go line by line. Are we good on each one of these? And explain to me how we are, so that when I do make that claim that we're IEB compliant, that if someone comes back later and says, prove it, I'm not going to get end up with egg on my face or worse. Yeah. So,
Todd, I think that the conversation that came up this week about RAD, I think really pointed in my mind to a bigger question, right? Is that there are certain parts of this space that want to make changes to, I think there's a perception to catapult this medium forward in a faster way, right? I think there's a need, and a feeling in the industry that this medium is growing too slowly. And I think that's been rooted for many years now. This isn't something that's necessarily new, but and I think it's an interesting conversation for us to have too. Is what if, right? What could be done, right, to drive this industry forward more quickly? Because we've been growing. if you look at the Edison research, it's showing that we're growing between 3 to 4% a year, right? Overall listeners. And for some in this industry, that's not quick enough, right? And I think that there is concern about content development outpacing audience, right? So let's say we're adding content at 10% or 20% a year, as opposed to content that's dropping off, right? Or leaving the space or pod fading, right? But our audience growth is only 4%. Do we get ahead of ourselves on this? And I guess my bigger question is, what can we do we think, and I think we've talked about this on the show, to maybe get the growth of this medium up to 10% a year?
For the 90% of the shows that are creating content, Rob, they could care less.
No, that's true. That's true.
They're there to do a show. They may have in the back of their mind lofty aspirations of monetizing, but 90% of the shows.
Yeah, but I'm not talking about individual shows. I'm talking about the overall industry.
Yeah.
I mean, how can we get audience development? Because I get, one of the things that I get asked all the time, Todd, and you probably get asked all this time too, is how do I grow my show? How do I get more listeners to my show? That's the biggest question that I get asked every day. And I just, I have to take them back to the basics, right? I have to walk them through this process. But that's always the burning thing that I'm always concerned about, right? Is when a new customer comes in, wants to host a show, all excited about building their show, and all this stuff. How do they grow an audience, right? How do they grow? But if this medium is only growing at 2 to 4% a year, that's a tough one to do. And if we're at 500,000 shows now,
not active, but there's
yeah, and that's part of the problem, right? There's 500,000 shows, but about half of them are active, right? So you're seeing this churn happen, and I'm just worried about the audience development, right? And I think we all focus on what's happening with Android as part of that solution, right? And then what we're seeing with Spotify could be part of that solution, right? To grow audience quicker. So Todd, have you been thinking about this? I mean, is this like a hammer that hits your head every day too, like it is mine?
No, not necessarily. It's not something that, it's a discussion point, but again, and it doesn't come up that often from our clients, because they're also participating in the spaces we're at too. We're hanging out they're hanging out in social and hanging out, so that's, and they have their own circles too of people that they know. It's just I don't get that question a lot. I think based on the discussion that we had this week, and again I'm referring to discussions we're having back channel. For those of you, I don't want to completely out everyone we were having this conversation with, but the my deduction from the conversation was that there is tremendous pressure on the corporate networks tremendous pressure to build much more revenue, much more faster.
Yeah.
So I'm not under that pressure. I'm sure we want to, as a company, I want to definitely generate more revenue so we can do more things and we put everything right back into the company, by adding new employees and new resources. And so, the faster we have, growth, of course, but I'm not reliant. My business is not reliant on advertising to pay salary.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, the advertising is like the cream on top of the donut, So it's, for us, it's, and it's a lot of work. Don't get me wrong. We have to dedicate resources to advertising deals and time and, the salary. So there's a cost center there, but I don't know. I think the space, I look at it from a definitely from a creator standpoint, I don't know. I guess my perspective is just maybe a little different. I guess maybe it's time we start pulling the podcasters and ask them what their biggest head hurters are, and if growing the audience is their biggest head hurter. But you can't get any more advertising for podcasting than there already is. You listen to traditional radio, and it's being advertised on traditional radio, on TV. It's it's being mentioned. You're hearing the podcasting word is part of mainstream content. Yeah, make sure you catch my podcast. Make sure you catch my podcast. Make sure you catch my podcast. So, and I don't know. I think that this whole initiative, let's be frank, there are certain groups in the podcasting space that, and we've said it 100 times on the show, that hate the download. If they could kill the download on every app, they would jump for joy. If they could stop downloads completely, not allow it anymore, have our apps stop downloading, that would be, they would love that.
Yeah, I would say, I think over time, though, there is a chance that downloads could diminish in their utility and their value. But I still think that there's use cases there that are not going to go away.
Not yet. And the data combine the data we have and combine the data that Apple's providing, it tells me that download is still king. It's going to be, it's got some more legs.
Oh well, it's the majority of how people are consuming this stuff. It's a majority
because people are subscribing. That's the dealio here.
Yeah, it's the core of the medium. Yeah. It's what really built the medium. It's what the medium's all about. It's always been like this, and trying to. I don't think it's fruitful to try and change that. I think it's going to have a negative impact on the consumption model.
Or in any way disparage the download is not helpful at this time. So yeah, especially because the agencies and the buyers of this medium, they've got the download figured out now. I think those out there that are complaining about the download are misinformed. Honestly, I think there's some of that out there. And I've had some conversations recently where someone was mad. It was a real conversation that happened. Someone was mad. They said, we've had X number of, we know somehow they were tracking how many people are clicking on the subscribe button. We've had X number of subscriptions, but we've only got so many downloads.
Okay.
So there's come on. It's not necessarily direct correlation. In a perfect world, everyone that hit subscribe would listen forever, But, the simple fact that these apps are at least smart, majority of them are smart, and stop downloading after a little bit when people aren't listening no more, and it's good that they do that. Yeah, I understand. The rad stuff definitely will be awesome if we can get percentages of it.
Yeah.
But what's it going to be? 12, 13, 14, 15% of the... That's how much of the pie we're going to get?
Yeah, because of how much Apple owns.
Right.
So it's a market share situation.
And so you just watch. Mark this spot in the show here. Mark my words. If Apple says, nope, we're not supporting RAD, you watch the disparagement of Apple start. You watch the news articles. Apple has too much control. And I mark my words, it will start. And at that point, then I'm going to get pissed because we have a lot. This space better be very thankful that Apple has done what they have done. This, we can, you might be an Android user. I love the Android users. We love you. But Apple took us from 2005 to get this thing booming.
Where it is today.
Right. Yeah. So anyone that starts talking beep about Apple, let's go.
Yeah. I mean, I'm the same way. I'm a former Microsoft guy, and I can, Apple's been the core of this industry,
right.
And there's a lot of, I'll be honest with you, there's a lot of loyalty towards Apple right now on my part. I mean, those guys are terrific to work with.
Yeah.
They're attentive in the space. They know their stuff.
They listen. They listen.
Oh yeah.
Now, corporate culture. They have a. Okay, Rob. They are the biggest, aren't they? The biggest company in America.
I think there's a couple others that are rivaling.
They're close.
Right now,
all right, it's all right. It's like they're like the top kahuna, right? They're big, the big cheese. The 5 million pound. Apple thinks in billions of dollars. They don't think in millions of dollars. They think in billions of dollars. That's when they make decisions.
Yeah. That's pocket change.
Yeah, million's not even worth a meeting, right? If you don't
that actually makes sense.
If you don't have an idea that is going to generate billions of dollars of revenue for the company, then so podcasting is, considering that they have as big of a team as they do for podcasting, we'd best be thankful.
Yeah, that could change quickly. Yes.
Right. So, and then I know Google and those folks are, I think you're listening, Google, are working on something. And, and I had hoped that they would have talked to more people about their strategy and getting some more insight. But, I know that, Rob, you can't say. I know you've had some discussion with them, and you've got this piece of paper you've signed where, you lose your life if you talk about it, or maybe your livelihood and money. But, Google is trying to figure this out, and they're going to come into space gangbusters. But I hope that, I hope they have listened to some of these shows that talk about Google and have taken notes, and will do what they need to do to start catching up.
Well, let me just say this. I do respect those guys, and I do appreciate what the thoughtfulness that they put into the medium so far.
The Google guys?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, good.
I think that they are caring about how they enter this space.
Mm-hmm.
And they realize that the Google Play experience isn't what they want to have represented on their platform.
Yep.
So I think it's common knowledge. I think most people in the space realize that the Google Play product wasn't up to snuff. It wasn't a solution that was going to drive audience to Android, because it was never really focused on doing that. So, but I mean, Todd, I heard this. There was a tweet that went out. I don't know that we talked about it last week or not, but about being able to subscribe to podcasts in the
Chrome.
The Chrome browser on mobile.
Not everyone, but yes, a lot.
On Android,
yeah.
Right? So something has happened with that. I don't know if that subscribe process has been there for a long time and we just haven't noticed it, or if it was a recent addition of the ability to subscribe to a podcast in the Chrome browser on Android.
It doesn't work on my phone, or I actually have a tablet. I have a relatively new Samsung tablet.
Mm-hmm.
And
maybe it only works on the smartphone, though.
Well, then I haven't. Let me grab one, because I haven't tried it on the phone yet. So basically, what happens, folks, is if you have an Android phone, I
don't have an Android.
Okay, so you load Chrome. Oh my God, we're gonna get and let me see here. Let me search for Geek News Central. You have to do it in the Chrome browser in your mobile device. So I got to hold this back. All right. So don't do that to me. See, on this phone doesn't even show my. See, on some of the other ones, it showed a podcast listing. Mine, it doesn't. So maybe, and this is just a cheap phone. It's a $90 Android phone.
Well, Todd, are you set to display content in your browser as mobile or display as full website? Because that's oftentimes a selected differentiation.
It says I don't know. I just load the Google browser, so I don't know enough about.
Yeah.
So at least Chrome. But anyway, on some Chrome, so this is the issue. So some, and it's probably
a versioning.
It's probably a version of Chrome that's old. So on some versions of Chrome, you search for a show, it'll usually show the site where the site show's at, and then it'll actually show you like your last 3 or 4 podcasts.
Episodes.
You click on one of those episodes, and this is the hokey part. You click on one of those episodes, it'll start to play, and up in the top right-hand corner of the page will be a subscribe button. And when you subscribe, then what happens is it gives you the opportunity to put a icon on your desktop or on your mobile desktop. And then from that point forward, when you click on that, it takes you to that podcast listing. You can listen right in the phone.
Plus, it probably maybe puts like a little notification in the corner of the icon.
I don't know if it does
that. There's something new there.
I don't know. Don't know if it's that fancy or not. But again, the listings have been there. And by the way, some of you this won't work on because your sites are not compatible. You haven't done the work necessary to have Google index your RSS feed. That's probably a topic in itself. But the feed will, I don't know. I have to play with it, Rob. I've got the tablet back here that showed the actual, at least the tablet showed the podcast listings, but I didn't ever have a subscribe button. So some people have it.
Okay.
And again, it goes back to the OEMs. I think sometimes, that's a core, so you should get the update from Google Play. I probably should check and see if that's set to update. I only use that.
I don't know if it's
testing.
locked in. I mean, I would think that the browser would be updated on every OS version of Android.
Be.
I would think,
but it depends on what version of Android you're running.
Well, I know. Well, that's my question. I wonder if only certain upgrades to the browser are made available to certain versions of the operating system, right?
I'm positive that's probably it's tied together. So that's the dichotomy of Android having, every phone running different. You almost all iPhones, they update pretty quickly when you.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's the thing that Google's doing, and it's just all right. It's hokey. It's not one click. You can't. This is you search, you click on you actually have to start playing a podcast, then you see the subscribe button. You can't. The subscribe button should be on the search result.
Yeah, correct.
It should be there where you click subscribe, not when you start playing and it's in that list.
Yeah. I don't think that this is a product of
no.
That's part of the team that we're talking about.
No, I think this is a stopgap someone has put in there to try to help.
Yeah.
So
there's a completely different team that works on Chrome.
Yeah, of course.
So they've just kind of added this characteristic or this feature, and it's good to do it, I suppose, but I don't know that it's going to make much of an impact.
So
under its current deployment.
Right. So have you heard about? I had someone tell me a strategy that was being used by folks that were in the top 10 search results or top 200 search results, and basically the strategy is when they fell out of where they wanted to be seen very easily, they
in Google, is that what you mean?
No, I'm sorry. Switch back to iTunes or to Apple
iTunes.
Music.
Okay.
Apple Music. They would buy, and I was just kind of like, really, you do that? they buy a advertising campaign either on Google or on Facebook to push subscriptions to a show, and they run the campaign only long enough to get them in the top 10 or top 200.
Oh, okay. Well, that makes sense to some degree.
Okay. Yeah, we're off the top 200. Let's just buy some subscribers here and get some. I'm sure if you're continually following out of the top 200, that means that maybe those people aren't staying.
Yeah, that's true.
So
time to look at the content a little bit closer.
Yeah. So we'll see if at some point Apple, reshuffles the how they're doing their top 200 list and these most popular shows, and gets a handle on that. We'll see if they make some changes there down the road.
Well, if you're part of the top 200, you're in the cool kids club, right?
Rob, I haven't even. I if my show's listed at 1,000, I don't care. It's real. Honestly, I don't care. And I said, I made the top 200. I'm like,
yay!
Yeah, yay!
That's as much of a thrill as you get out of it. Right?
I'm old. I'm sorry. I've been at this a long time.
Takes more than that to get my juices going.
Yeah, it sure is. But no, it's just it is what it is.
Yeah.
There's some other things I wanted to talk about. I can't remember. You being late got me my train of thought all messed up.
Well, yeah, same with me too. It's like, what stuff happened this week? But yeah, I mean, I think the big thing that hit me on the head this week was the conversation of, how to grow audience, how to get more listeners, how to. I mean, that's the drumbeat of the ages, right?
It's like 2 weeks running for you because that was your problem child last week.
Yeah, that's right. It is. And then I spent a lot of time this week getting prepared for NAB.
Oh, so yeah.
NAB's coming up.
Speaking of which.
Yeah.
So I put out another piece, or my team did. I wrote it. They edited it. Thank God for, because when I just, when I type, it's just like it's just a dump. It's a dump, right?
Yep.
And so the piece I did, let's see if I can bring it up on the screen. It's called "Is Radio Missing the Mark in Podcasting?" And I basically talk about, and really what it is. It boils down to the essence of this is that radio's not completely listening to successful strategies that need to be employed to deploying a podcast.
Well, Todd, they're broadcasters. They're not listeners.
Okay, well, so
it's about what they want. They want to push what they want.
Yep.
Right?
So this piece will be blasted to 807 press people on Monday morning.
Oh.
What we're trying to do, and I hope the rest of you guys are Rob and the Podbean folks. Are they going to be there? I think so.
Yeah.
I'm trying to get these media people thinking about the podcasting space, and I'm trying to get them to start questioning in their mind what's going on with radio and podcasting. So this is why I'm been doing this. And really what it is, it's a strategy that's been used on me for years as a blogger, going to CES. I get these emails and people say, Todd, have you thought about this? And, 2 out of 10 I'll read. So I know I'm not going to get through to everyone on these. But if I can get a dozen or 2 dozen reporters to go, and then they make an email and said, hey, we'd like to stop over and see you, then I'm definitely going to be like, get done with them. Like, go see Rob and go see him. And why don't you get some different perspectives? So I'm trying not only to get clients into the booth, I'm trying to get the press into the booth so that they can write about podcasting and as a whole.
Also make sure that they know that all 3 of us are going to be doing sessions and panels, and
yeah, and
I'm on three sessions now, so it's.
So maybe I should do a list of all this. Maybe that'll be the last email. Here's where you can hear podcasting experts, time, place. Where you can hear them talking about specific topics. So maybe that'll be what have we got left here? We've got 2 weeks, right, before the show, essentially. So I've really got, so I'll make that the last. That'll go out the Friday before the show. And oftentimes, the amount of email that's going to be hitting the press guys by mid next week is, it's like 400 or 500 a day.
Yeah, it's gonna be a lot.
A lot. So you get lost in the weeds. So that's why we start a little early on this. But they're just want let you guys know that as part of a podcaster, not podcast company, but a podcaster strategy, one of those strategies is if you haven't emailed your local TV, radio, and any circular weeklies that come out, they're always looking for stories about people in the local community, and they need fill, and you could be a 3-minute fill on a programming. So they may come out and do an interview with you, and they may not run you for 2 weeks, but they'll find, I got this dude or gal we did an interview with, let's stick them in here, and or they do some related spot. So if you're not talking to your local press, build your audience. This is one way to get exposure.
Yeah. There's going to be a lot of activity. I mean, I think it's interesting. I know that the NAB is really, and I think we've maybe mentioned this before, but is really trying to create their show to be appealing to podcasters.
Mm-hmm.
I think that pathway they're kind of just getting started at. I think right now it's very focused on radio, trying to appeal to that community. Is kind of where NAB is today. I don't know that a lot of podcasters think of NAB as a place to go to learn about podcasting.
Right.
But I think that's where NAB wants to get to, though. They've expressed that as their goal here.
It's just a cool show to go to see all this stuff.
Yeah, I mean, you're a media creator. This is a show about creating media.
Yeah.
And it's more and more becoming a show about online media. And so we'll see. I mean, I know even Dan and Jared from Podcast Movement are doing sessions at this show. I mean, they're participating at a deep level as well, and it's kind of interesting that Dan and Jared are doing that because I think that they're trying to appeal to the radio space as well, trying to drive more of those people to Podcast Movement.
Mm-hmm.
And one way to do that is to get exposure at NAB. There's 120,000 people that go to this event.
Yeah.
It's a huge community of content creators. It's by far the world's biggest show on media. So for podcasting to not have a big presence there is not, it's not good. So that's what I've been driving, and I know you and Rob have been driving that as well, of trying to push NAB into doing more to reach that community.
Early in the company's history, we went to NAB to sell Roku channels as a podcast company.
Yeah.
Because there was nothing podcasting. They roll your nose, but they thought OTT was pretty cool,
Yeah.
And OTT is still pretty cool at the show. You'll see a lot of OTT stuff. And, it's okay. Rob, have you guys done a booth outside of you haven't ever went to be part of the actual NAB show? You probably have attended when it was
with the new media show,
right? You did it with them.
Correct.
Okay. So what you're going to find, and I think because we're in a different area, I absolutely guarantee you that you're going to get at least a dozen people that are going to come to your booth looking for content. They're going to be looking for audio and video content for their networks. They are going to be looking to do content deals. And they don't get the space. I mean,
they probably think that you own the rights to all the content.
Yeah. Well,
I get that question asked, fairly frequently.
There's some syndicators in the podcasting space right now that think every hosting company owns the content that's being hosted on it too. So
yeah.
they don't understand.
And those that don't really understand the podcast medium, and are working in the music area, or they're working in other areas of content that have licensing rights behind them, that's the typical kind of understanding or thought that they have coming into the space, because that's what they're familiar with. So,
well, and radio owns, most of their programming. So, and also you're going to hear people coming up and offering up to do production deals. They're going to say, we do production for audio, and we can put a 10 episode package together for you for $20,000.
Yeah, and I get asked that question from people that want to create a podcast. It's like, well, do you guys produce content? Can you guys produce it for us? I mean, those are common questions,
right?
There too, and I just have to tell them that we're a tool provider,
right?
Enable you to easily produce your show, but we're not going to produce your show for you.
No.
But there are companies out there that have studios in New York and LA, and that you can get into some sort of a.
But most of them, a lot of them are not going to, because they're used to doing episodes for TV, where there's $100,000 budget for each episode. So there's that tier. So there's, you have to go looking for the guys that are there that are, at a different tier level. But just the exhibition floor alone for a pass is $50, and it doesn't hurt to go to see Shure, or go see Livestream, or go to see New Tech, or go see your favorite, go see Audio Technica, go talk to them in the booth, how you love the microphone and what you hate about the microphone, because guess what? They go, oftentimes you can talk to the engineer and you can say, this is what sucks. And
last year, Rob, Walsh and I walked the floor together and went to some new microphone companies that were coming out with really, really high-end microphones that are really kind of amazing. And I know that there's new technology coming out in microphones that will enable us to really have noise-canceling microphones. I think is where the future of this is, or that the technology is going to enable us to really record extremely high quality audio, but the microphone is going to be so smart with intelligence and processing that it's going to be able to filter out any kind of background noise. And that would be fantastic. That would mean that you get a microphone, you can record in any situation.
So it's just like Adobe Audition. Every year, I'm a big Adobe Audition user, and sometimes I don't know how to do something. So I go and there's 5 computers with like master Adobe Audition, folks standing there, and I'm like, I don't know how to do this. Can you show me how to do this? And they're like, oh yeah, click, 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 and they give you a business card if you have any questions. If you want some written instructions, let me know. And you make friends with those people, and you tell them, here's something I want that we don't have. It goes on a list. Yeah. So they really do listen and engage with you there. You may have to wait 15 minutes to talk to someone, but you stand there patiently and wait your turn, and you'll get in. But I'm okay. So as an example, Wirecast. I was using Wirecast a lot. New Tech came out with this protocol NDI. What you're seeing Rob on the screen right now, for those of you watching the video, his video signals being sent over IP, not over a copper wire, but over a LAN cable to be displayed on the screen. So NDI is this protocol that is you can use other devices, and it can receive and send. And so I went to the Wirecast booth and I said, listen, you guys need to implement NDI and add that protocol to Wirecast. And I laid out to the guy the use case. I said, here is the use case of why I need NDI on Wirecast. And I said, you do that, my solution to you goes from like 10 cables down to a LAN cable. And the guy says, let me put that on the list. And guess what? Next version, Wirecast supported NDI. Now, I was just one of probably a number of people that requested it, but it's one of those situations where you're there, you're boom, 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 boom.
Mm-hmm.
The squeaky wheel gets greased, and that's how it works. Because you're the customer.
Yep.
So I don't know. I think we're gonna have some interesting times in the space over this. I'll have more commentary on RAD down the road.
Yeah. Well, I don't know what's going to happen with that. I mean, it's going to be interesting to see it, especially in this climate right now, on privacy and what's happening with this. What it feels like is a pullback from data sharing.
Yeah.
Online.
Well, I think I mentioned this at an earlier show. I said we're getting into sticky territory here with this, and so they're going to have to figure out in their protocol how to tokenize it, and everyone's got to be using the same type of token system so that, well, yeah, because really what a token does, folks, is it converts the IP to a value, a different value. And that way, again, we're still going to know the user agent and where you're coming from and all that. But it's a safety standpoint so that if our logs are hacked, your IP is not going to end up on a list.
Mm-hmm. Well, if you're using tokens or whatever to report back, then it's been anonymized.
Yeah, anonymized. Yeah, but you still will have. You're still going to know which browser or which which app they've used, and you don't lose any of that. It's just the IP data is tokenized. So
yeah. I was just looking at the YouTube chat that's going on. I don't know if Todd, if you're able to see that, but there's.
Oh, let me look.
There's a mention of Anchor should go to the NAB since they own our shows. That was an interesting comment from Eileen.
Yeah, they do own your shows.
Yeah.
I think if you're an Anchor user, I shouldn't give advice here to Anchor.
I know.
But I'll throw a freebie. If I'm an Anchor user, I would be on the war path. I mean, there would be war about my feed and being able to have it underneath my user ID at Apple.
Well, Todd, I think one thing to think about Anchor is we've seen, I think, is what's been happening more and more is that some new people start on Anchor, they produce their show, and they get, it's almost like training wheels, right? You get started, you produce a show in there, and then you realize what the limitations are, and you kind of upgrade, right? You move to the next level, and that would be we're already seeing it on platforms like ours, right?
Yeah, we're already. We're not migrating people to Anchor or migrating people off Anchor.
Off of Anchor, yeah, because they learn how to podcast, they produce a show, and they want to get a little more serious about it. So,
and another thing, I won't say that anyone's done a study, but super high failure rates over there. I mean, really high. The shows are not making it very far. So, we'll see. There'll be some core shows over there that'll do good, obviously, but pretty high pod fading rate.
Yeah, and I don't really have any big issue. I mean, Anchor has been able to pick up quite a few shows, and they grew relatively fast because they got a lot of exposure.
Well, they paid for it.
Yeah, well, I'm sure, but they've picked up probably a lot of people that probably wouldn't have jumped into the space because it was a little more complicated at the beginning for some. Anchor certainly made it easy to start a show and get it out there. But, once you start, you basically want to grow up. And I think it could be, okay in the long run that this is a funnel for new content creators. So
You know what's so funny is that, well, yeah, I'll just leave it on the table. I'll probably get in trouble with my guys. So I have to. I was gonna share something that was kind of a funny anecdote, but hey, I have just for everybody knows we're doing a Blueberry Q&A today, and it's starting in 8 minutes.
So we have to wrap this up.
So we have to wrap this up today a little bit early. But if you want to join our webinar, there's basically an invite on my Facebook profile. If you're live with us right now at facebook.com/Cochrane. And then, of course, on our social channels and stuff as well. But we're going to do an hour of just Q&A with podcasters in general. Rob, how can they reach you?
Rob at voxnest.com is a great email to send to me as well. And on Twitter is a great place to engage with me as well at Rob Greenlee. But I do the Spreaker Live Show every Wednesday at 3 p.m. Pacific. So it's SpreakerLiveShow.com.
And of course, you can reach me at Todd at Blueberry.com and on Twitter at Geek News. Yes, a little shorter show today, but if you have any insights or insider information or any juicy stuff you can share, rumors, innuendos, we'd love to keep that between the three of us, and then we can talk about it on the show. So don't be afraid to dime someone out. We love to talk about stuff on this podcast. And I'll just
fodder for Todd on Facebook too.
Yeah,
so.
yeah. And I'll just say this: I've had some interesting meetings this week. Pay attention to the space. Just keep your eyes out. There's going to be some things that are going to be coming that people are going to. Their eyeballs are going to go, oh, and some of it may even invoke anger.
It's all about content, Todd. If you can invoke some emotion, right?
Yeah,
that's always a good thing.
It's always a good thing. Yep,
that's right.
So that's right. Everyone, thanks for being here. We'll see you. We'll see you next week on the New Media Show, and we'll make sure Rob's alarm clock is on, and hopefully mine is too. So, okay. Everyone, thanks for being here. We'll see you next time. Take care. Aloha.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Gotta find the button.